Governments are testing AI inside the cabinet, while AI augmented influence ops press from the outside. Today, we're going to unpack both. Albania has unveiled a virtual persona presented as a cabinet-level advisor aimed at cleaning up public contracts. At the same time, we've got AI-driven persona networks being used to shape political narratives online. We're not talking just about chatbots and image creation anymore. AI is getting its time on the big stage, and things getting a bit crunchy. This is the third episode of September. Welcome to the podcast that looks at artificial intelligence and the impact it has on higher education. Adjunct Intelligence. My name is Dale, AI enthusiast, and I am joined by Nick McIntosh, the learning futurist. Nick, are you well?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. I'm feeling a bit concerned about us emo attire that we've gone for.
Yes.
Little funereal, like I heard the news doesn't match. So
It paints a picture of the type of content we're diving into today.
yeah,
Things are a bit somber.
yeah.
Things are a bit serious. Let's get into the news. No job is safe from AI, not even politicians apparently. Albania has just sworn in the world's first AI government minister. Her name is Djela, meaning sunshine, and she is not human at all, but a virtual cabinet member powered by artificial intelligence. Prime Minister Edi Rama says Djela will help make Albania a country where public tenders are 100% free of corruption. That's no small claim. Public procurement has long been the epicenter of a lot of scandals in Albania, a hub for gangs laundering money from drugs or weapon trafficking. So corruption has been such a barrier that it's slowed Albania's dream of joining the EU by 2030. Djela began life as a virtual assistant on the e-Albania platform, helping citizens access documents. Now, dressed in traditional Albanian attire, she's stepping into the cabinet, taking on contracts and bureaucracy. But not everyone's convinced. Even Djela will be corrupted by Albania, one Facebook user quipped. Another warned, stealing will continue and Djela will be blamed. So, is this a dawn of an incorruptible digital governance or just another experiment in a country where corruption is coded into the system? Either way, it looks like even cabinet seats aren't safe from automation.
Yeah, this is wild. This sort of marks an endpoint evolution of things that have happened. The UK, for example, spoke about injecting AI into the veins, mainlining it into the veins of the UK's government systems. The UAE has a regulatory intelligence ecosystem, dynamic laws that they projected would accelerate legislative process by up to 70%. I've not seen this. I just sort of know Mecha Hitler and things like that with Grok. I mean, sort of don't bode well for this. I hope that Diella, however you say this name, I hope this is better than previous, but we'll be watching with interest.
Speaking of things we should be watching, we are entering the era of AI-driven disinformation. Great. It's already almost impossible to separate from authentic content. A former head of the NSA has warned that generative AI allows disinformation campaigns to operate at an efficiency and speed and scale that we've never seen before. This isn't speculative anymore, it's happening right now. A report from Axios had my jaw dropping that we're already at this kind of stage. Consider Galaxy, a Chinese tech company exposed in leaked documents for weaponizing AI in influencing operations, using open source reasoning models like DeepSeek. So they created adaptive synthetic personas, not just bots posting canned propaganda, but profiles that tailor messaging in real time, mining social media accounts to avoid kind of detection. The scale is significant. Over 2,000 US political figures have been targeted, including 117 members of Congress. This is alarming.
Yeah, this is huge. I mean, AI, generative AI, has already removed one of disinformation's key weaknesses, being language, right? So those awkward phrases, the obvious cultural missteps. Content now reads as naturally American or naturally local. I mean, so the gray zone conflict is what researchers are calling it. But yeah, personally, I agree. It's just alarming.
Russia is deploying similar tactics. Analysis from Peak Metrics showed that nearly 30% of the anti-Ukraine content contains signs of AI generation. These operations are dynamic, adjusting in real time, even tailoring narratives to certain audiences like France to undermine NATO. A call out from those in the know, a novel approach is needed if democracies are to keep pace with adversaries already running these tools at scale, aka, hey guys, do something, stat. For education, this isn't a geopolitical issue, it's a literacy challenge. So students today navigate information environments where AI-generated content is embedded in the flow of news, social media posts, and search results. That raises the stakes for teaching source evaluation, so not just find the credible source, but actively interrogating how content is produced and by whom. Critical literacy, so helping learners question the authenticity of language that feels polished and local, but may be synthetic. And assessment design, so building tasks where spotting, evaluating, and challenging information is part of the skill set, not just a thing we kind of do at the end. In higher ed, the role of educators is to prepare students for a landscape where AI can be an ally in their learning. Well, at least I think that's our position here in this podcast, but also an adversary in kind of shaping their worldviews.
So new research from OpenAI shows that AI hallucinations aren't a bug. They are instead a feature of how we train and evaluate these systems. So just like students facing a tough exam, AI models are rewarded for guessing confidently rather than admitting uncertainty. This is because most benchmarks use this binary grading that gives 0 points for an I don't know type response. The study shows hallucinations originate during pre training as a bit of a statistical inevitability when distinguishing valid from invalid outputs. These then persist through post training because the evaluation systems there penalize these honest expressions of uncertainty. While only 5% of companies report measurable ROI from AI investments, the researchers argue that the solution isn't better hallucination detection. It's fundamentally changing how we score AI performance to reward appropriate uncertainty over confident wrong answers.
I feel this one is perhaps too simple to answer. It's just better evaluation. This research piece suggests if labs just redesign evaluation metrics to explicitly reward honesty over lucky guesses, so instead of penalizing uncertainty, penalize confident errors more heavily. So hallucinations should then just evaporate. And a massive bonus for industries that can't even afford a 1% error rate. So this could be transformative. We finally had the number from Anthropic's landmark copyright case. After months of speculation, the payout lands at $1.5 billion. Big, yes, but still a far cry from the $1 trillion liability they were once rumored to face. And that figure tells you something about the high level stakes around training data. AI companies need it in vast quantities, but the rules for how they use it are unsettled and expensive to test in court. Enter really simple licensing, or RSL. This week, publishers like Reddit, Yahoo, Medium, and Quora backed the new open standard designed to let websites set actual terms for how their content is scraped for AI training. It's kind of that robot.txt file that's in all websites. It exists, just trust me. It's in most websites, but upgraded. So instead of just saying, yes, hey, you can crawl, come on in, it may say, hey, actually, no, you can't. RSL lets publishers attach licensing or royalty terms, even embedding them into books, videos, or full datasets. The hope is to replace messy courtroom battles with structured, negotiated agreements. The content we use every day in classrooms, journal articles, learning materials, even student work, all sits in this training ecosystem. If RSL takes hold, institutions may need to rethink how intellectual property is valued and protected.
It's going to be really interesting seeing how this pans out outside of the Anglosphere in terms of like English language. This was late in terms of recognition, in terms of models that were trained on Vietnamese data and proficiency with these and everything else, despite there being only 100 million speakers of the language, across all continents.
Rachel Jen Fuzz's opinion piece, "The AI cheating panic is missing the point," makes one thing really clear. Students are already using AI, but the story is far more complicated than just cheating. She writes about graduates who relied on chatbots to get through their coursework, but also felt really unsettled by what they might be losing in the process. One graduate told her AI made college easier and harder at the same time. That captured the paradox. Students really appreciate how AI lightens the load, but also many worry it's eroding their ability to think deeply or absorb what they're actually studying. Jen Faza argues that schools too often default to panic about misconduct rather than creating space for students to reflect on these kind of trade offs. The result is often silence, stigma, and missed opportunities for honest conversations. And we're seeing a lot of this as that people are focusing very much on the are people cheating versus what skills are we building around this. One 17-year-old she interviewed voiced the weight of that responsibility. When anything new is introduced, this student said, youth make the pathway for the future. I just hope what we're doing right now is not destructive. I'm kind of harking back to when we're on Facebook and we're putting things up, and then Zuck starts to use it against us in our memories, and we just cringe every time they go, "Hey, look what you said when you were 10 years old." It hurts,
Mhm.
Zuck. If you look at Australian student forums, you'll hear the same themes. Posts describe attendance dropping while grades inflate, leaving some students worried that their degrees could be devalued. Others rage at peers shamelessly submitting ChatGPT essays. There was a really interesting Reddit post that was what it was titled. If you use ChatGPT in your assessments, you should be ashamed, arguing it undermines the efforts of students who actually want to learn. At the same time, there's fear in the opposite direction. So students who avoid AI entirely but still worry about being wrongly accused by unreliable detection tools. And there's a lot of conflicted voices here. Like the postgrad who swore that they would do it old school. I think they actually phrase it as they're going to raw dog their course without AI. I like that phrasing. Only to admit that once they saw what AI could produce, going back kind of felt like switching from a smartphone to a Nokia 3310. Are you hearing this from the students where you are, Nick?
Yes. I mean, so we have Facebook is huge here. And so there are confessions posts from across different universities, so institution confessions. They talk a lot about inconsistency from what I can glean from translations or what people report to me in terms of it. Because what you have is students highly aware, yeah, my degree I pay a lot for, right? And I'm in a bit of an arms race with the student beside me on either side of me, not using it all and doing it if you like, raw dogging it, but doing that mental labor and earning it. Student to the other side of me getting the same mark, right? An HD, a DI, a high distinction or distinction, and doing it all with the aid of a $20 a month subscription, but still the same result. And they're paying the same amount and they're getting the better result. Do you know what I mean? And then there's the third thing. Do I need these for my future? They're caught in this bind where they are competing with moral standards, which may or may not apply, with an arms race where some may or may not have these rocket boosters on their feet, and then the pressure of what the job market will require of them in the future. There is no answer here. There's no clarity. There's only questions. So, yeah, very much hearing it here. I'd say globally.
And students are pretty much all telling us the same thing, whether it's Jen Fuzz's article or Reddit posts or Facebook forums. AI is here to stay, and they're furiously aware of that. They do not want a one-size-fits-all response. And let's be honest, there isn't one. Let's harken back to the Wicked Problem research piece from Cradle last week. There is no silver bullet here. They want to talk openly about what they gain and what they lose when they use AI. So conversations and openness and transparency is what's really important here. And we all have a role to do that from a place of knowledge and education. Let's do a rapid news wind-up. It has been Deal City in AI land this week. And it matters because these billion-dollar tools, these empires, these things that could be considered utilities and probably should be, it probably still feels a bit precarious. First, Microsoft signs a deal with Anthropic, plugging Claude into the Office apps. Remember, Microsoft's actually best friends or in a strong relationship with OpenAI since that $1 billion handshake in 2019, and that investment has only built over the years. So this is quite interesting. The intention here is to use Claude in areas where it's really good, positioning Microsoft as kind of like an AI waypoint. They've already got Grok in there in some of their developing lens. Then, OpenAI, they fire back with a record $300 billion deal with Oracle. I'm not crying causation here, but perhaps correlation. OpenAI is famously reliant on Microsoft servers, but with some money to throw around after their big new valuation, this kind of hedges their bets a little bit and also makes Larry Ellison, Oracle CEO, the world's richest man. Sorry, Elon. Now, OpenAI and Microsoft actually patched things up in the early hours of this morning with a non-binding memorandum, basically marriage counseling for AI giants. It's kind of a thing that says, we're going to work it out. We've agreed to work it out. Everything's fine here. But why do we even care about these deals? Well, think about this. Imagine you can't create fun images in Nano Banana anymore. Imagine a world where Anthropic vanishes because of a copyright lawsuit, or Microsoft just shuts off the servers and ChatGPT stops overnight. That's why deals like this matter. It's probably good to keep an eye on them and see where they're kind of flowing. I'm actually not sure who wins here after all these deals, other than Larry Ellison, but hopefully things kind of settle down now for a little bit and they can focus on what's actually important.
Your point about the utilities, the framing there is actually really important because as these things become increasingly embedded into platforms like Office, when there are functionalities that you require to do your job and suddenly it's gone tomorrow, or a pay gate suddenly appears, this creates not just hurdles, this creates bottlenecks and things that could cripple practices. And then if you just think about all those untold somethings in your phone and your work and your life that you depend on these things for, yeah, it's really interesting to see this consolidation or not.
I'll quote Scott Galloway here in that this is just transition of wealth to away from, there's a whole lot of good blue chip and blue collar companies out there, and a lot of us just going towards these big tech companies. It's an interesting space and one to watch. Power is often concentration of resources, and a lot of these resources are very much flowing towards these AI companies. Let's stay with OpenAI for a second here. They're launching a brand new platform that connects AI skilled workers with companies in need of talent. This is a really interesting move from what is a tech company. They also want to offer certifications to ensure employees are truly fluent in AI. Together, this kind of jobs platform and the OpenAI certifications aims to expand economic opportunity. That's the name of the press release. It's meant to help businesses adapt, give millions of people the skills to drive in an AI-driven future. I do like components of this as a concept. I think it's kind of helping pave the way for the ever diminishing job market that comes. But I kind of hope that the right people are in the room here to support that kind of talent development space. As you said so well recently, having experience with learning doesn't always translate to brilliant teaching. And so one to keep an eye on here. And finally, Nick, there's new Claude features.
I know, throw to me for the Claude piece. Anthropic's Claude has introduced some brilliant new features, so focusing on improving existing functionality rather than just releasing new point 7, point 9 new models with higher parameters. It can now work with Excel and PowerPoint files in ways that it never could before, okay? And before we get ahead of ourselves, it's not amazing, it's fine, it'll do. News, like, I mean, what about you? You played with these things, I'm gonna expect.
Yeah, it's
Quiet
kind of like
quiet Claude fan? Come on.
I love Claude. Claude's
Claude
great. Claude's
curious?
just
Yeah, yeah.
Claude's no, I'm like acquaintances. If you he's my
Okay.
friendship circle. He's
Yeah,
someone I
yeah.
probably see on weekends. Not my daily
That's fair.
carry, but definitely we hang out on weekends. But yeah, and
That's
this
fair.
and this new Office feature, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's great. I did note recently, I felt like Copilot or Microsoft's options recently released something similar to work inside Excel and PowerPoint. It's always been a
Yeah.
bit naff. And I feel like inside the Excel functionality, they did release something saying, please don't use this for accurate information. Now, when I use Excel, I
In
do
Excel.
need
Yeah,
it to be accurate. And so I felt that was an interesting kind of disclaimer to put
yeah.
in an Excel
In
product
spreadsheet.
to
Yeah,
work on there.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, though, they're expanding out their Claude offerings on your phone. So there is now the promise, at least, of a virtual assistant. Sorry, the glossies talk about handling life admin for you. So find a slot in your calendar, block it out, suggest a coffee shop, all within the iPhone app. I have not played with this myself. I use Copilot for these kind of things. It talks a
Oh,
good game.
really? I didn't
Yeah,
know
but
this.
hang
Mm.
on, it talks a good game, and then it sort of
Mm.
falls over. Confident, yeah, of course I'll book that in with these 3, 4, 5, 10 people, and nothing. I mean, have you played with this yet though yourself? Like, I mean,
I did. I tested it this morning whilst I was at the
okay.
gym. I got it to, I gave it a blank calendar on my phone.
Mm,
Weirdly, though, in my
mm,
blank calendar, there's only one appointment, and in its searching for a blank slot to book me a coffee date, it chose the one slot that wasn't free. And I was like, "Hey, you made a bit of an error here," but it
mm,
tried to fix it, and then it was like, "Hey, I've moved it to Monday. That's okay." It didn't. It moved it to Tuesday. But what I did notice, it was kind of going in and going, "Hey, listen." It gave me the information, and the
mm,
pipeline was there. I'm kind of impressed it did things like looked at my location, identified 5 cafes around me. One of them was my local cafe, and I showed the note that it
sick.
gave to the business owner around what it kind of assumed about that cafe. The accuracy is probably typically AI in that it's a little bit janky, but showing promise is what I'll say.
Out of interest, what did the cafe owner say when you turned up? Like, "This is what the machine said about you." Like, I mean, was it like a
He
positive
was
sort
like,
of
"Oh,
note? Was
that's
it good
nice."
response?
The actual response was because it highlighted it being a family-friendly environment, and
Yeah, yeah.
I went there solo, and he said, "I'm not gonna serve you because it's clearly a family-friendly environment,
It's family
as you'd be
friendly. Yeah, yeah.
aware." So,
Yep, yep,
yeah.
nice. Something that is working though, good pivot there, Nick, well done me. Runway, have run their 5th Gen 48 hour film competition, and what they've used this to showcase their new, I'm gonna say Aleph? Sure, Alf, let's
Doesn't
go
roll
for
off the
Alf.
tongue.
It
It
does not.
doesn't roll off the tongue, like,
Their
it's a
Aleph
cool product,
models.
but that I don't like Aleph.
It must be. I'm sort of seeing like Aphex Twin sort of imagery in there, but they're new advanced video editing capabilities. So ones that traditionally required expensive VFX teams. So the Aleph edition lets creators manipulate existing footage in really sophisticated ways, changing camera angles, adding or removing objects, transforming lighting and environments, even aging actors or swapping backgrounds. So over 1,600 submissions to this competition, testing these tools, producing films with this really often unexpected magic realism aesthetic, right? So we're talking kids in what are clearly circa 90s lounges, chilling with their Xboxes and the family pet, these gigantic horse-sized glow-in-the-dark blue cats, right? All filmed on what seem to be old school handheld camcorders. So great, like very of the time production values. Wonderfully Murakami or Garcia Marquez sort of magical realism where the impossible feels normal. Just one slice of life, all kinds of other things from there to animation, real sort of film noir, sort of gritty things and everything else. These platforms really empower creators to move beyond clip generation to professional grade post production, demonstrating that AI video tools have graduated from novelty to practical utility. And I'll close by saying 50 grand in prizes, Lionsgate partnerships. If you're a video editor, well worth a look and definitely get involved. There's some great stuff coming out of there.
Runway is a whole bunch of fun, and it's really impressive.
Mm,
I think I'll flat to you around the model. It has this kind of, it's like the Mid-Journey style in that there's this
mm,
ethereal, dreamlike quality to it. I use it a lot to kind of breathe life into travel photos, adding like a bit of snow or rain or like a flicker of movement. There's a
uh,
restaurant in Osaka around Donbori that I loved when I visited last year. At the time, I would have stood there for an hour capturing a time lapse if I was a younger man with not a care in the world. But unfortunately, I had my kids with me and they were tugging at my sleeve and saying, let's go. So it just wasn't happening. But now it took me kind of 3 seconds to do that with a single shot. The reloading tools are especially wild as well. I'm amazed at what's going on here and how often they feel really real. Like suddenly having kind of like a cinematographer's kit in your laptop and in a web browser. That said, once you kind of push more complex territory, the seams start to show. So I think it's classic AI jank there, or like image generation. Things start to get a bit funky. I tried adding rain to our podcast visuals last week. It looked like a bunch of fresh-faced student doubles kind of got called in as extras here.
There was some Blade Runner, that replicate right there at the end.
Let's bust some jargon. Ever heard the term AI alignment and thought, huh? So let's break it down. Alignment simply means, does the AI do what we actually want it to do, not just what we kind of type in? So imagine if you tell an AI, make me rich. If it's misaligned, it may try to do something extreme, like design some code to help you scam a bank. If it's aligned, it will help you budget, invest, or maybe build a side hustle. Same request, but totally different outcomes.
Yeah, and in research, alignment is the big safety question. As AI gets smarter, how do we make sure it still follows human values, human ethics, human intentions? That's why scientists build guardrails, they stress test models, and feed in human feedback to keep the AI on track. I'll just add as a note, this is part of why I'm such a fan of Claude as an AI. They have something that's known as a constitutional model, which is all about alignment as these machines get more and more powerful. So +1 for Claude.
Speaking more practically in everyday life, does the AI output actually match your goals? If you ask for study notes, do you get clear summaries or do you get random nonsense? So, next time you hear alignment, it's just about building AI that's not only smart, but on your side, or on humankind's side. Well, listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please leave us a review, share around within your network, and most of all, hit subscribe on whatever platform you are at. For those watching on YouTube, we are on all your podcast platforms, so for those who would like to see our face, tune in. We'd love to tell you what's on next week's episode, but it's a world that moves way too fast, so you'll just have to tune in. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, and stay the human rule.